Hello. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 2023 New England Food Show. Make some noise out there. My name is Steve Clark. I am the president and CEO of the Massachusetts Restaurant Association. We're so excited to have everybody here today. We have our first culinary demonstration of the week of all 3 days. Chef Eric LeBlanc. Chef LeBlanc is the culinary director for Burtons Grill and Red Heat Tavern, and he's going to provide us a fantastic opening culinary demonstration. Chef LeBlanc, thanks for coming today.
Thank you so much for having me.
How's it going out there?
That's going well. I'm excited. I think we're going to have a great dish here. It's going to have a lot of aromas to it, and
Awesome.
Interested to show everyone it.
We look forward to the smells and the aroma and just watching you go to work.
All right,
So without further ado, Chef LeBlanc.
Thank you. All right. Hi, everyone. So today we're doing this green curry vegetable bowl. So, we ran this as a special in our restaurants coming off the holidays. A lot of heavy dishes, a lot of us cheating during that whole month. So, the task to me was come up with a couple of great vegetarian dishes that had a lot of flavor, a lot of aroma, but was also filling. So we ran this back in January in all our restaurants. So to start off, it's got quite a few little recipes to it. So we're gonna start off making the rice. So we're gonna start off with the olive oil. Make sure we coat the bottom of the rice cooker. And we're gonna use jasmine rice. So I'm gonna make sure I stir that up a little bit, coat that with the oil. At this point, we're going to add our seasoning. So we have 1.5 tablespoons of Gram Marsala. So this is a combination of cardamom, cumin, clove, coriander, black pepper, cinnamon. So it's got those nice spice notes to it. Kind of a little bit of that fall flavor-esque. And then we want to make sure we add a little bit of salt. And at this point, we're going to add our water to the rice cooker. And like I said, we want to make sure we stir in those spices. You see how they're all on top, just clumped up a little bit? If you were just to put the cover on and cook, that's not going to absorb into the rice. So we want to make sure we just stir it up, but not too much to release those starches. All right. Great thing about the rice cooker, just set it and forget it. Let it do the job. All right. So the next thing we're going to work on is our turmeric rub. So this is a little combination. You want to use some blackening spice. The blackening spice is nice because you have the heat from it, you have the salt, and then you're going to add a little bit of turmeric to it. Turmeric is from the ginger family. So we have our bronze seasoning. And really, you can test what kind of bronze seasoning you want. It depends on how much heat you really want. If you really want it blackening, if you really want to add a little bit more heat to it with the cayenne, or if you want something a little bit more mellow, like tagine or something. Okay, like I said, if you want to add a little bit more heat, we're going to add a little bit more cayenne to it. And then we're going to add our turmeric. And when you're looking at spices and buying your spices, you want to make sure that you're getting fresh spices. You can really see discoloration in the spices. If they've been sitting for a while, if they're dry, they lose their lackluster flavor. So always making sure that you're not sitting on too much spices so that they can go, die on you, really. And I'm just working out the clumps right now to make sure that we don't have any little pockets of turmeric, which is like never good. Like in any spice, if you're cooking, all of a sudden, if you're biting into the food, it's like this dry patch. You're like, oh man, it's just not good. So I'm going to put the spice right here for now. We'll put it off the side because the next thing we're going to work on is we're going to work on our cauliflower. So one thing that's been crazy is like the price of cauliflower. We monitor things in our restaurant all the time and see how much in degrees it goes up for costs. And cauliflower is something that really hurt us for a little while. And not only that, there's issues with the growing of it. So you're getting some of these cauliflowers that was a stem and stalk that was like this long and then a little head of cauliflower. And you're paying for the whole thing. So for us, it's finding what other uses we can use for it. So for this dish, if you are having a little extra stem, You can peel it off, you can use it, you can grate it with a box grater to mix into your rice mixture, because after we cook our rice, we're going to add a kind of a vegetable blend, a power blend we call it. It's got some Brussels sprouts to it, kale, radicchio, carrots. So that cut I was just doing, I was kind of working around the stock there, because like I said, this is all money, but I want to make sure I get the most florets and not have too much on. So I'm just kind of working it like a wedge right there. And then another thing, one big thing that we teach about cooking is like, you want to have even cooking. This is going to take a lot longer to cook than this. So the thing that we're always teaching is even size, surface area, and making sure that they all cook evenly on it. You know, and then it depends on the application. In a restaurant, we do a buffalo cauliflower, and the sizing is so important, because when you're frying it, cauliflower is not really forgiving. It's not like broccoli, where it's like if it's partially cooked, the stem's, you know, soft enough. Cauliflower, it's either it's there or not. So like, it's really important that I teach, like when we teach the cooks and stuff, the important sizing, because you know, 3 minutes for this and 3 minutes for this, you're going to have different results. So it's really important to make sure everything's the same size. And then when I'm thinking about this dish, I'm also thinking about that size of cauliflower, because really, the cauliflower is like one of the main stars on this plate. There's no meat. This is a vegetarian dish, and if you remove the riata on it, it's a vegan dish. So how can we make the cauliflower the star of the dish? So that's where the spice comes in play, the roasting of the cauliflower, where it kind of feels meatier, even though it's not. And we want to make sure that we keep in mind the sizing of the cauliflower again, because we're going to be roasting it, so it's going to be shrinking a little bit as well. So those small little pieces, once they do shrink, they get a little bit more waterlogged, and then it's mush. It's not really have any texture to it. So I like to use these things. I like to use Silpats. You know, it just protects the food. You get some off flavor sometimes from the sheet trays. You know, if they're not washed all the way properly, it protects it. Also, we do a lot of food that is sticky, and this kind of makes it so it saves it. Like we do this almond cookie. It's pretty much pure sugar, and if we were to do it on the sheet tray, and if it sits after 2-3 minutes, it's going to break right away. So these, you're allowed to kind of peel it, and they're reusable. It's only about, you can get them really cheap now, like $10 each. So we have our cauliflower, and we have our spice mix, and we're going to take our oil, make sure we evenly coat the cauliflower, but we also don't want to drown it in there as well, you know. We are trying to be healthy, so we're kind of keep in mind how much oil we put on, what oil we use. And now we're going to take that awesome spice mix we made right here. And like I said, that blackening spice has salt mixed into it, so that's why we didn't add any salt into this mixture. We're going to pick up that in the flavor. And I'm just evenly making the spice kind of rain on it, coating it. And I'm good with that. And I'm going to transfer it to the sheet tray. I'm going to spread it out as well. You don't want any like crowding. You're trying to roast this. If you've got crowding, which is like another issue you find in restaurants a lot with the cooks, is they're trying to do too much at once, and you're actually not doing what you're purposely trying to do, which is roast this. If all of a sudden I stuff the sheet tray, there's no surface, there's nowhere for the air to get out, so then it's going to be steaming, and you're not going to get any color on it. And then the reason why we like color on the food is for caramelization. There's more flavor. Do we like boiled food, or do we like seared food? Seared food. It's got that nice caramelization on it. So I'm going to pop it back in the oven. And we're going to put it in there for 350 to roast. I went a little higher on this oven. This is the amazing thing about working in mobile kitchens like this. Things are up and down, you know. You always want to test out to make sure you're good. So I've been playing with that for about 2 hours. I know it says 350, but it's a little cooler. So while that's cooking, we're going to set a timer so we don't forget. We'll take a look in 15 minutes. And the good thing about this is you can have this kind of staged out waiting, like, yes, the cauliflower will be roasted, but you can pop it back in the oven to heat back up. Rice cooker, this is going to be staying in a warm setting, so even if you just did it earlier and had it sitting, it's still going to be hot. And the sauce is going to be sitting here hot as well. So all this can be sitting, if all of a sudden something happened, you're like, oh man, what do I gotta do? I gotta run and do this first, you know. That's kind of how I think if I'm doing dinner at home, you know. I got young kids, so we're just, sometimes things pop up where it's like, I gotta let it simmer for a little bit, sit. All right, so the rice is starting to go, catch on there. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna work on that riata. So, the riata is, this is a cucumber riata. It's a nice, cool side dish that's gonna go on top of this. Like I said, this dish has a lot of flavors going on with it. So every bite's gonna be interesting and everything kind of goes well with each other, works well. That's why I kind of liked how this dish played out. I had to listen to my cooks, obviously, because there's probably 15 prep recipes on it, but you know, sometimes you gotta do the prep a lot to make the end result great.
Hey, Chef, just
Yeah.
in audience, just so you know, he'll answer questions as we go along here, I think, right, Chef?
Yeah, if anyone has questions, you know, feel free.
And
Carrie will get the mic to you.
yeah, Jess is down that end, I'm down this end. Just raise your hand and we'll get the mic to you.
So one reason why we like the English cucumber is the water ratio in it. And it's got a little bit more flavor to it comparably to your normal Kirby's or your picklings. So we're going to take a box grater. We're going to go on the bigger side. I peeled off the skin there. And the important thing with this prep recipe is that water. Cucumber has so much water in it. And when we make this in a big batch and we're doing like 24 cucumbers, it's a lot. It's a lot of water. And the problem is when you mix all that water into the yogurt, it doesn't mix well. It's not like, it doesn't get like a nice smooth soupy consistency. It's kind of like more congealed and stuck together. It doesn't do well. So the thing that we have to make sure with this is that we really strain out that water. So I have my strainer here and I get this, and I'm going to use the strainer and I'm just going to start squeezing and pushing against it. And you're going to be amazed at how much water comes out of this little. I only did half a cucumber, and I guarantee you I could probably get 1/4 cup of water out of this. And when there's only half a cup and then 2 cups, 1 cup of yogurt and sour cream in it, you're really going to change the consistency of it. So I really tell people, you got to make sure you work this out, and you can taste it. When we go through the restaurants and we're doing line checks and we're tasting everything, and just the looks of it, you can tell if it wasn't strained out. So where are they all? I feel good about that. And to be honest, like I said, I mean, that's a lot of cucumber water out there out of a half a cucumber. Which I said is going to change your recipe. So, we're going to put the cucumber back in. Clean up a little bit. All right. And now we're going to take our yogurt and sour cream and fold it into the cucumber. And this is really similar to like a tzatziki sauce for, you know, Greek food. I think you're going to find some versatility with some of these ingredients. Like I was talking earlier to one of the sound guys, we were talking, and I was like, oh, these pickled red onions, you know, they're great for tacos. So, you know, you can do a lot with these different cuisines and different food. So I'm mixing the yogurt, I'm mixing the sour cream. And we're going to add a little bit of black pepper. We're going to add a little bit of salt. And we're going to add some lime juice. The lime juice, the nice acidity, it really goes well with the cucumber. And, you know, just in general, a lot of times in cooking, to adjust the flavor of food to really balance it, it's either salt or acid. So sometimes, you know, it's just a squirt of a citrus right at the very end on top of food can really bring it out. And like I said, if we weren't to drain out that, this would not have any structure. It wouldn't hold. You kind of want it like holding like this, still like that yogurt form, maybe like oatmeal where it's fighting to fall down. The other stuff is just going to be, it's going to be kind of, it's going to be snotty, really. It's going to have that consistency. It's just like you're adding liquid to yogurt that's already got kind of consistency of holding against it. All right, so we're going to get a container. We're going to save that to the end. And then, you know, the best tool that we have in the kitchen, and we should use them more often, is our tasting spoons. There's so many steps along the way that we can, you know, help correct food or you know, a chance to correct an issue if we were just to taste it throughout the prep process, through, you know, the ingredients, through on the line, up in the window, before it gets to the guest. I always preach that because it hurts. It just hurts when the guest is the last person to get it, when there's so many opportunities along the way if all we did was taste our food more often. I mean, that's why I got it. It's fruit all the time. It's great. Okay, our rice is starting to go. All right, the next item we're going to work on is we're going to work on our curry sauce. So, I did cheat a little bit. We got a curry paste here that we recommended in recipes. In our restaurant, we make a curry paste. I'm going to say I think it's 16 ingredients in it. That's a lot. But the other thing is it's got a tremendous shelf life. Like, we make a big batch, we portion it out so it makes sense for us. And the important thing is to really grind it because it's got so much going on involved. But for this application, we have a green curry paste. And the another thing is the coconut milk. So coconut milk really solidifies. You want to make sure it's in a liquid state like this. Earlier, it's really cold in here, so I took the cans out and it was a complete block, you know, which is going to alter the recipe if all of a sudden we're trying to thicken the sauce or reduce it. So I went ahead and I cooked it and cooled it down so it would be consistent. The other thing that's going to help thicken this sauce is the cornstarch. So we're going to make a little slurry. This slurry, for cornstarch to activate, you have to cook over 185 degrees. And you want to make sure you have the right amount. Sometimes you can get that like chalky taste in foods that are thickened with the cornstarch. You'll see those in a lot of sauces, pre-made sauces. So really important to cook that out. So we're going to start with our coconut. We're going to add our veg stock. So important thing about the veg stock too is what type of veg stock we use. There's a lot of them out there, a lot of different flavors. Things that we keep in mind in our restaurants is the allergens, gluten-free, make sure it's free of everything really. Other thing is sodium content. You can get some bases that are super strong in salt, and all of a sudden you're adding a little bit into the stock that adds into the final recipe, and it's overpowering. So we look at sodium as well with the with our bases, and then the color. So for a little while we've been having sub issues with some certain products, and one of them has been our bases, and we've seen some different bases coming through. One of them had a red tinge to it, so then all our risottos looked like this orange color. Everything was just off a lot. So visually to the eye, it was a little bit off. So it's really important that you specify what type of base you want in stock, and you know, can come down to color too. All right, so we have the veg stock, we have the coconut in there. The other things that's going to make this a little spicy, so this is going to have some back notes of spice to it. We have a little bit of sriracha to it. And if anyone knew earlier in the year, we had that sriracha issue where also in last May, they told everyone in the world there's no more sriracha. And then everyone started freaking out. Us too, not gonna lie. We ended up buying like 10 cases per restaurant, kept it in the warehouse, and we got through it. But there has been some new substitutes out there. They're definitely a little different in flavor. I've tried a few different ones out there, a few different brand ones. Very interesting, very close. But sometimes nothing beats the true one. All right, so we have the curry paste in there. We're gonna add that sriracha. And like I said, the cool thing about this recipe is like how hot do you want it? You can adjust it. You can add more cayenne and that blackening turmeric rub. You can add more sriracha right here. And we're going to add a little bit of salt right now. Whisk that up. Now for me, visually at like the restaurant, you can play around with this to make the color because it's kind of got that light green, brownish color. If I wanted to kind of pop this up a little bit more on the plate, you can take some cilantro, blanch it, wring it out, put it in a Vitamixer and add that to here with the sauce. And that green pigment will really come out in the sauce and really make it pop. Sometimes, just a nice little down and dirty. Some of the best food is, the down and dirty street food or just basic where it's not always foo-foo or tweezers all the time. Yeah, we got about 3 minutes. Now we have the cornstarch and the water. We're going to make it a slurry. So in a separate bowl, we're going to add the cornstarch and the water and just stir it together. And you want equal ratios of this. Now for me, I'm going to add, because we did such a small amount, I'm going to add it here and ladle it in. And you really want to avoid those clumps, work it. And like I said, we're going to bring this up to 185 degrees just to slightly thicken it. We want a sauce. We don't want soup. While that's going, I better make sure. All right. See the color on that? Right down there. We got a little bit of nice roasting there. Orange pops out. Great flavor. We'll let it waft over here for a bit. I don't know, that oven might come home with me. Just saying. It's like the quietest thing. I can wheel it around. We'll be good. So this is coming up to a boil. I'm going to turn it off low. It's amazing what the induction burners have come around now. I mean, this is like 40 bucks. These used to be so much money. I actually worked at a restaurant where there's no gas at all. There's all electric. So cooking 15 years in restaurants with gas and burners and all that, and all of a sudden going electric, and it's like, okay, what's 13 mean? And I had to relearn everything, but it was really nice, very clean. Hey, go ahead.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah, you're going.
We want everybody to hear.
You get the real deal, man.
Hi, my name is Wesley Gear. I'm from Manchester Community College. My question for you is, due to your different demographics in your restaurants, do you think all the spices that you're providing in your dish might overwhelm somebody's palate?
Great question. And that's something that, we did talk about with this dish, because this is definitely a specific dish, right? In some of our markets where our restaurants are, this worked really well with us. But we also knew going into it wasn't going to be maybe for everyone. We have different reasonings behind the things that we do. Not everything is a purpose of maybe, okay, we want this to be 100 sales. This was also a test to say, okay, maybe this might make it on the menu for the spring. And I was doing a test run, and we gathered the information on sales, guest feedback, before all of a sudden we commit to this and writing on the menu, and then we got to reprint everything. So it's we do ask that question. It's got to make does that make sense, or what's the total reasoning behind it? So that does go play into our creative thinking and stuff. It's very and it's really tough too. So our restaurants, we're in 8 different states. It's really, really different. Things that work well in Boca, Florida, might not work well up in Nashville, New Hampshire, So that's definitely something that we have talked about. We do regionalized menus as well, where maybe this might be in our DC market, this one dish for lunch and stuff. So it's very important. Great question. Okay, so right now the rice is going. It's just hitting warm mode. We got our sauce nice and slightly thickened. Our ricotta's good over here. Some things that I like to do with this dish is like we have a pita. Kind of slop it up a little bit. It's really good. All different types of pita out there. So one of my first internship out of college was in Cleveland, Ohio, and it was at this restaurant where we had a tandoori oven, which was so cool. It's the only place I've ever worked at one too. It's basically a huge clay pot, and you sit there and you slap the bread on the side, and it bakes on the side, and you take this metal spatula that's kind of long and you peel it off. But also you can work whole fish in it, you can work meats, and it's kind of like on these metal skewers, and you just rotate it around because it's cooking from the bottom up, and it's about 800 degrees. But it was really cool, and like I always remember making the naan there and the bread, sticking it on the side. We had a breakfast one and we had a regular one. It was great, the fresh stuff. We also went out. I went to New Orleans 2 years ago and went to this restaurant called Shia. Best pita in my entire life. Like it was like pillows. Like I've never had an experience like that. It was just amazing. Like the guy had a pizza oven. Spent 3 years creating the recipe and figuring it out, and like it was like pita you've never had in your life. So it was just phenomenal. Like when you have those little like moments of like, oh wow, this is great. So like I said, you can do a naan dough, you can do a pita, you can do anything with this, which is great. Some of the garnishes that we have for this dish that we're going to do, we have these pickled red onions. It's a simple salt, sugar, vinegar, and red onion. We have some toasted chickpeas. Another way you can enhance the flavor on these chickpeas as well is if you toss them a little bit of oil and then whatever spice mix you want. So if you wanted a little bit more of that turmeric pop, you can do the turmeric rub. You can do the blackening spice. You can do a little bit more. So you just put them in a low oven so that the oil kind of adheres and spice adheres onto it. Like I said, we have that vegetable blend mix. So this is, a majority of there's some stalks a little bit. That's all diced up through a shredder. We have some kale. We have some Brussels sprouts in there, some carrot. Cauliflower stem, and then we're going to add a little bit of more heat to it with some jalapeno slices, and then some fresh cilantro. That's for me. So yeah, really important on this rice. Down. We'll get down on it. But we mix in that spices so they're not clumped on top. So then all the rice is brown. I can tell when someone just dumps something in the rice cooker at any of the restaurants and just like, you didn't stir anything in there because it's separated. So we're going to put together this dish now. We have that power veg in our rice mix. So there's no need to cook this right here. The steam from the rice is going to soften it up, but not totally make it mush, because you kind of want that nice little snap to it. All right, so we're nice and mixed in. All right, so I only got 3 plates, so everyone's got to share. Let's funky a little bit more. And while I'm plating, I'll toss a couple pita in the oven, warm them up.
And as Chef is plating, if there's questions bubbling up, let us know. We'll get a mic and we'll get Chef to answer the questions for you. Don't be bashful. All right, the students. If you got a white coat on, it's like I'm asking a question because I got a white coat on. You already asked one.
If everyone is like a little nervous to their knife skills or can't really get as thin, you have this great tool called a mandolin. It's also super dangerous. I've seen so many accidents on it, but if you're trying to get super thin on your jalapeno slices, this is a great tool to have.
Hi, my name is Elias Young from Manchester Community College, and I have a question. What do you guys do to combat a lot of the food waste that you see in higher end kitchens?
Say what? Sorry.
How do you guys combat food waste in kitchens?
So okay, food waste. In my restaurants, that's it's one of the measuring tools for the chefs and how well they're doing, because they have to do their inventory. They have a theoretical food cost that they have to be in. I create menu recipes that we base on plate costs. that have to be under a certain amount. So they have to manage their ordering, their inventory, their waste, all that, because it's an important metric for them. It means something financially for them too as well. But it's also a measuring stick of how we do it. So for them, it's conscious on ordering. They're pulling their P mixes from our computer. So they're saying, okay, on Mondays we sell 6.3 salmon entrees. So I'm gonna make sure I butchered X amount, 8 salmon to cover a little buffer and going to the next morning with something, So there's a lot of tools that we have on our side to help us dial in so that we're conscious on our inventory, our waste, ordering. Like we can see how restaurants are starting to order too much food on the shelves, which just means you're going to be throwing stuff out. It's going to be garbage because you're basically maintaining, old product. So we have all those tools to see and help us on that. So in the restaurants on their side, it's super important. For me, it's a little bit tougher. I try to maximize my food use. I do R&D, so I'm doing a lot of development. So sometimes I have extra stuff, but I might not work on that project for a little bit. So I'm a little bit more guilty of the waste. I try not to be. But it's also, it's tough to get things where I'm doing 2 plates. But it's always top of mind. It's we waste too much food in this country. So like I said, I'm going with this mandolin. I'm getting nice thin slices. That way the jalapeno is fresh, a little pop on there, but it's not too much. All right. I say, let's start building these plates.
So, Chef,
Yeah,
I got a question here.
of course.
What technology platforms do you use to track your financials, food costs, et cetera?
So we just switched over this year to Crunch Time. So we use Crunch Time, and everything has its pros and cons to it. The great thing about that platform is we do all our ordering through it, all our inventory through it, all our invoicing through it. Everything is done through this one platform. I've used a few different ones in my past, and this one I see a direct result of lower food costs, lower liquor costs, and also I think it gives us more up to the minute data for the chefs as far as tracking the labor in that service period, where you can say, okay, we didn't hit the sales, I might have to go lighter after 1 o'clock, and then have everyone come in an hour later, and you can see that up to the minute, which is great. I think having that information that allows our chefs and our GMs to get out of the office. They should be in the restaurant. They should be interacting with the guests. That's where you're going to do more positive for the restaurant. That's where you're going to help your food costs, because you're in the window checking the food as opposed to in the office doing stuff that doesn't need to be done. So. All right, so we have that rice with that little vegetable mix. Blast this for a second. And then we're going to cut our pita or our naan bread.
So, Chef, while you're plating, the whole when the world turned upside down, the flow of revenue changed. A lot of stuff started going out the front door instead of at the table, and a lot of things with the commodities you had to look up and say, how am I going to work this menu? You guys how frequently do you go through a menu revision and figure out exactly what you're going to put on the plate and how you're going to manage the stuff that goes out the door versus the stuff that stays in?
We're always looking at stuff. I got to tell you, there's some projects that we really kick the tires on for a while, but it's important. A big project that I've been on for a little bit right now is potatoes. We do a fresh French fry program at Burtons, which is quite a process. You're talking, it's a lot of inventory to bring in the potatoes, have them rotated properly, that they sit, that the sugars are correct, the starches are correct, the blanching process is done correctly, all those. There's so many things around the line that can really mess up a French fry. So that's a project that we've been working on quite a bit. I'm trying to get the right variety of potato, because the other problem is you'll have some gaps throughout the year where we have to do a different variety. and it, it eats differently. The sugars are different. It cooks differently. So we're really trying to hone in on a potato that can be used year-round. That's great for French fries and mashed potatoes. And I've probably been working on this for 4 or 5 months now, and it's nowhere close. Still going to be punching French fries for a while, but it's things like that where we're always making sure, because we want the best French fry for our guests. We want that quality for you guys. So if that means I got to punch 800 French fries, I'm going to punch 800 French fries and then eat the French fries and then do it again the week after. So that's kind of the great thing about my job is it's different. It's always in the pursuit of making something great. So I love that. All right, so we just warmed this up a little bit. Like I said, the cauliflower is the star. It's the center of the plate. Kind of looks nice and meaty and big. The colors are popping. And this is where we're going to get all those nice garnishes. So you can get like the regular cilantro, and now for me, for cilantro, there's a place that you can pick it perfectly. Right at the very end, after this part it gets way too woody, you can still eat this part of the stem is really nice, and we like those nice leaves to pop on the plate there. You can get that, you can get the micro cilantro if you want to be fancy. A lot of different options, but the flavor's all there.
Chef, got another question?
Yeah, of course.
Another platform question.
Yeah.
What do you use for recipe writing and also making those recipes viewable to all of your different outlets?
Same thing, and we're still, everything's done in the crunch time. We build all the recipes in there, so that's why when you're ordering, it's tracking how much is done. Like garlic's going to change in price from this week to next week, which is going to affect all the recipes that have garlic in it, but that's going to have a theoretical food cost tied to it based on your purchasing and your reconciling. So all that recipe writing is in there, so that's where you can really see that food cost variance trim up, where basically you're either losing it in waste, theft, or you're not tracking your purchasing correctly. So it's really nice in that platform that everything's done there, so it's all in one. There's not, I gotta go over here to figure this out. And also, now all the chefs, all the cooks, everyone has access to that in an iPad or on their phone. So you can just pull up the recipe right there, no issue. You can also do the inventory right there on your phone, no issue. It's amazing like how much it's changed in these last 15, 20 years. All right, so to finish this dish, we're gonna put that ricotta right on top.
Chef, another question?
A couple jalapeno slices.
Hi, Chef. I have a question for you.
Yep.
Do you grow your own microgreens or herbs?
So when I was younger, I had a garden in Boston. I lived in Alston apartment, but I actually had like a garden that probably had 65-gallon buckets, 42-gallon buckets on milk crate tier. Like if you went behind this alley in Linden Street in Alston, and all of a sudden you would just see like this jungle. I actually had the Boston Globe take a picture, and like they said, urban oasis, because it was my garden that was just on out of an apartment. I had a big thing about different mints. I had pineapple, chocolate, sage, I had lemon verbenas, I had fresh lettuce. Like it's something I got into a little bit. Like I think you get in like those little kicks. I did my own beer for a little bit. I did my own cheese for a little bit. Charcuterie, just like you get on a little tick for a minute, you kind of want to figure it out and try to make it. And so yeah, I did jarring at this one job quite a bit. I probably had like 600 jars of preserved items. I kind of like to figure out how things work and play around with it. I'm not trying to make it better all the time. I'm just trying to, for my understanding. I tried growing strawberries last year. It didn't work out too well, though. All right, so we have those nice pickled red onions. We have those crispy chickpeas that we're going to put on there. And that's like, this is nice too, because there's not a tremendous amount of texture on this dish. You know, it's a lot of soft items. So these crispy chickpeas are going to have a nice little pop to them. And then we have that sauce. And the sauce we're going to finish. And then a little bit of cilantro right at the very end. And that way, now you have a lot of nice aromas. You have a lot of great flavors. You know, the colors really pop on this plate and dish. And like I said, this is a vegetarian dish. If you remove that riata, you have a vegan dish, and like it's a lot going on for vegetarian vegan as opposed to the old standard back in the day.
Another question, Cook?
Awesome, thank you.
Excuse me, chef.
Yeah.
So now it's been increasingly becoming popular with hydroponic harvesting. Are you doing one for yourself as well?
So that's crazy that that's gone up too. I think you can see a lot of big differences. There's a lot of different techniques on that theory, and like whether hydroponic or whether in soil, whether in the growing, in the light. There's a lot of different variations of that. There's a lot of cool farms. Eva's garden in Dartmouth, Mass. She does all her own microgreens. Phenomenal place. Really, like, she is one of the known people, like chefs will get out for her microgreens and stuff like that. There's a place that I did an event in Austin, Texas, where the guy did his own microgreens. It's on my Instagram feed, but he did some cool stuff. He does like, he did the business title in microgreens on a 6-foot board. He grew it all within a 2-week period. It was phenomenal, the process. So, you know, it's just amazing, like all these different avenues, because I do know there's like, chefs are doing different things. There's a guy who does designer ice. That's all business, designer ice. You can buy this ice that this guy just creates designed ice for bartenders and stuff. So there's a lot of cool things out there.
Chef, I got another question here.
Yeah.
How many of these types of menu selections do you put on your in the different restaurants?
Oh, so we have 2 different brands. We have our Burtons brand and we have our Red Heat brand. I'm in the middle of a menu change like right now. Next Tuesday is our Red Heat brand menu flip. And that one, we did 25 items. It's a very, very big menu change, but it all depends. The Burtons one, we're kind of doing a smaller one, and we're going to put more focus on seasonal features, and we're also going to be, we're opening another restaurant down in Richmond in June, and we're going to be adding brunch to that, which we don't have, so I'm developing a brunch side. So it all depends on what's going on in the situation and needs. So sometimes it might be a light menu change, it might be a really big one. It depends. Like I spent probably 2.5 months on my Red Heat menu change. I have it already calendared out like fall next year where we have to be tasting this day because it can't fall behind. Because not only is it the menu creation, we have to get the stuff to the restaurants. We have to source it in from a company, which could be 6 weeks to get into the processing, and then so we're already behind the clock. So there's a lot of things that we have to do. We have to get the menus printed. We have to make sure we have to train everyone. There's a lot of things so we do a rolling timeline of it, and like sometimes these will start 4 months out.
So we've got time for one more question, Chef, and I've got the person dead center, been waiting patiently.
Hi, my name's Olivia. So you said you had a lot of restaurants across 8 states. How do you ensure consistent plating between all those restaurants?
That's great. So like that's the important thing. If you are going as guests in this location, you're going at the same one down there, you expect it to be the same. Consistency is the most important thing. So we do a lot of first off line checks every morning to make sure the product is to spec. Our managers go through a front and back go through the culinary process because it's about the food too. So they need to know about the food. We also, when we do menu change, like next week, all my chefs and GMs, they are starting to soft roll the dishes Tuesday, like 3 a day. They are sending those pictures to me and some area directors and all the chef, everyone. So we're all on an email, so we see the pictures. We see all 5 restaurants doing those, and we can see the differences, and that's how we ensure that. We have our area directors, because like I can't be in all these restaurants, so we have people that have smaller amount of restaurants that are maintaining the quality, because it's super important, and we're always making sure that, you know, consistency across the board. Like, 'cause for me, if I'm going to the same place, I expect the same thing. Same tools too, which is important, like measuring tools. The recipe is written the same here, over there, but who's making it? So yeah, great question. Great question, guys. Thank you.
So listen,
Thank you.
before he runs away, that was awesome. I don't know if you guys are looking at the sky cam, but my mouth's kind of watering, Eric, right now throughout the whole presentation. If you've not been to a Burtons Grill or a Red Heat Grill, the food there is incredible. You look at these, you think it's like a chain. It isn't a chain. The chefs there are producing incredibly great food, and he's an educator too. So I think the guys in the middle can appreciate that. So Chef LeBlanc, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.